I sat at my sleek glass desk, the late afternoon sunlight painting gold streaks across the city's skyline. My silk blouse felt impossibly soft under my fingers, a small luxury I allowed myself while sipping on my lukewarm latte. I should have been proud. My life looked perfect from the outside, but some truths never faded. The phone buzzed on the marble counter, startling me. A text from Mom flashed on the screen. "Can we come by?" "It's important." My heart clenched. Important in my family's language usually meant trouble. Or worse, judgment. I remembered every dollar they had taken from me. The $600,000 that should have been mine after the accident that left me scarred for months. Instead, it fueled my brother's lavish lifestyle while I was left with a patchwork of empty promises and cold apologies. I leaned back, letting the chair squeak beneath me, and inhaled the faint scent of the coffee before me. My office smelled faintly of fresh paint and success, my success, painstakingly built in secrecy. A bitter laugh escaped me. I was calm, composed, thriving, but I could feel the old hurt simmering beneath the surface. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. My parents, I assumed, already on my floor, expecting a quiet reunion with the girl they had once dismissed. They didn't know who I had become, and soon they would. I remember the day everything changed, the day I realized my family didn't see me as their equal. I was 19, fresh out of college, and still healing from the accident that had left me with scars both visible and hidden. My parents had called me into the living room, their smiles tight, their eyes avoiding mine. "I thought this money would help your brother," my mother said, her voice smooth but cold. "He has big plans, Samantha. You'll understand when you grow up." The words hit me like a fist. $600,000, my settlement gone. My fingers trembled, curling into the edge of the couch. "Mom, that was for me. For my recovery, my future. Not for him to live in mansions while I scrape by." My voice cracked. My father shook his head, a mixture of annoyance and condescension. "You'll be fine. You always figure things out. Don't make a fuss." I wanted to scream, to throw the nearest object across the room, but instead, I clutched the small silver locket my grandmother had given me when I was 12. "Remember who you are, Sam." Her voice echoed in my memory. "Money can be stolen, but your courage and mind can't." That night, I packed a single bag, my hands shaking from both rage and fear. I left behind the house that had raised me but never truly seen me. I left behind my parents' dismissive smiles, my brother's entitled laughter, and their hollow promises. I didn't know exactly where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. I had no fortune, no connections, only a resolve that burned hotter than any anger I'd ever felt. That silver locket rested against my heart, a symbol that even when the world seemed determined to rob me, I had something it couldn't touch, my determination. By morning, I had rented a tiny apartment in the city, a place I could call mine. Alone, scared, but unwilling to let my future be dictated by those who had already chosen him over me. The tiny apartment smelled faintly of fresh paint and instant coffee, the only comforts I allowed myself in those first months. My laptop sat on a rickety folding table, glowing like a beacon of hope. I had no savings, no network, just a burning need to prove that I could build a life without depending on the family that had abandoned me. That's when I met Julia Langford, a seasoned marketing consultant with a sharp wit and a reputation for discovering hidden talent. I found her through a chance networking event, my first real step into a world I had only glimpsed from the outside. Julia looked me up and down, her eyes catching the nervous tension in my posture. "You've got grit, kid. Most people crumble when life hits them. Not you. Come by my office tomorrow." The work was brutal at first. Endless spreadsheets, client calls at odd hours, learning skills I'd never imagined I needed. My fingers ached, my eyes burned from staring at screens late into the night. I stumbled. I doubted myself. I cried quietly when the exhaustion became too heavy. But each small success, the first positive client feedback, the first profitable project, the first time I could pay my own bills without guilt, was a quiet victory I celebrated alone. I started hiding my achievements from my family, posting only modest updates on social media. They didn't need to know. They had never believed in me, and I didn't owe them the satisfaction of seeing me fail or succeed too loudly. Slowly, the apartment transformed. My living room became a miniature studio, walls lined with framed accomplishments and sketches for upcoming campaigns. I learned to negotiate confidently, to trust my instincts, to own my ideas. With Julia's guidance, I landed a high-profile client who transformed my fledgling freelance venture into a legitimate business. That first contract brought not just money, but validation, the proof that I was capable of creating my own path. By the time I signed my first office lease, I had built something solid, something they could never take from me: independence. I furnished the space with elegance that reflected both my personality and my hard work, but kept it unassuming enough to avoid drawing attention. Only those who looked closely could see the depth of my accomplishment. And every evening, when the city lights shimmered through the office windows, I would touch the silver locket my grandmother had given me. A silent reminder. Resilience is often quiet, hidden, and patient, but it always finds a way to shine. The knock at my office door was deliberate, polite, but it made my pulse quicken. I knew who it was before I even looked up. My parents. Perhaps my brother, too. Probably expecting the same struggling, timid girl they had once dismissed. I straightened the silk blouse I had carefully chosen, smoothed my skirt, and gestured toward the seating area. The sunlight through the floor-to-ceiling windows reflected off the sleek glass and chrome, highlighting the modern elegance of the space. Expensive art adorned the walls, each piece carefully chosen, each telling a story of my journey. The faint scent of jasmine from the diffuser mingled with the leather-bound books on the shelves, a small touch of sophistication I allowed myself. My parents' eyes widened the moment they stepped inside. My father's jaw tightened. My mother's perfectly manicured hands gripped her purse straps, as though holding onto reality itself. And my brother, his grin faltered, disbelief flickering in his eyes. I let them take it all in. The office. The awards on the shelves. The plaques from high-profile clients. The way I held myself, not desperate, not apologetic, but in command of the life they had ignored me while funding for someone else. Finally, I spoke, my voice calm but carrying the weight of every year of struggle they had overlooked. Welcome, everyone. I assume you're here because you thought you could see me still struggling? Their silence was deafening. I don't need your sympathy, I continued, letting my words roll smoothly, almost conversationally. I don't need approval. But since you're here, I think you should understand something important. The $600,000 that came from my accident settlement, the money you gave to my brother to fuel his lifestyle, didn't break me. It didn't define me. I did. My mother's hand trembled as she touched a chair for support. My father looked like he might speak, but couldn't form the words. My brother swallowed audibly, his face pale. I started from scratch, I said, walking toward the window and letting the cityscape outside mirror my reflection of persistence. I worked nights, learned skills, made connections. I built my own business. I have offices in 3 cities now, a network of clients that trust me, and assets that you never even imagined. Their eyes scanned the room, disbelief etched on every face. I paused, letting the tension settle, giving them time to absorb the truth. You expected me to fail, I said softly, almost kindly, to crumble because I had no help from you. But I didn't. And now, I hold the power to decide how, or if, I allow any of you to be part of my life moving forward. My brother opened his mouth, then shut it. My mother's lips quivered. My father's expression shifted from shock to guilt to a faint glimmer of understanding. The room felt heavy with the weight of all the years, the money misused, the favoritism, the quiet suffering. And now, for the first time, the balance had shifted. I watched them carefully, each one of them standing awkwardly in my office, as if the walls themselves could judge their past choices. And in that moment, I realized the power wasn't just in my success, it was in my ability to decide how they could re-enter my life. I'm willing to help, I began, my voice steady, controlled but warm. But things will be different now. Not just for me, but for you too. My brother's shoulders slumped, clearly unaccustomed to being addressed like this. I don't understand, he muttered. You've spent years living off the money that should have been mine. That ends today, I said firmly. If you want to be part of my life, you need to pursue something meaningful. No more entitlement. No more expecting to coast while others do the work. He nodded reluctantly, a mix of shame and relief on his face. I could see the beginnings of reflection forming, the seed of change taking root. Turning to my mother, I let the warmth creep back into my voice. Mom, if you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on honesty. No more secrets. No more taking advantage of me or anyone else in the family. I want to see you pursue your own passions, not live vicariously through my brother or me. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her posture softening, her old defenses starting to crumble. I could sense she wanted to argue, but she knew the truth in my words. My father fidgeted with his cufflinks, his pride battling guilt. And you, he asked, hesitant. You will learn to respect boundaries, I said, meeting his gaze. No more dismissing me. No more choosing him over me. If you want to remain part of my life, you must genuinely support each of us as individuals, not just as extensions of your expectations. I felt a subtle shift in the room, the energy changing as my words sink in. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about healing, accountability, and growth. And just to be clear, I added, letting a faint smile touch my lips, I'm not punishing you. I'm setting conditions so we can all be better. You can step into a healthier dynamic or step back. The choice is yours, but my life, my boundaries, my peace are non-negotiable. There was silence, heavy with thought, reflection, and perhaps a newfound respect. They weren't used to this version of me, the version who could show compassion while holding firm boundaries, who could wield success not as a weapon but as leverage for positive change. I touched the silver locket around my neck, a symbol of resilience and self-respect, letting it remind me why I had fought so hard. I had survived betrayal, neglect, and favoritism. Now, I could transform those wounds into lessons and set the rules for those willing to step into my world. Weeks passed, and slowly, subtly, I began to see changes. My brother enrolled in a community college program, genuinely excited about learning instead of living off money he hadn't earned. My mother took a weekend art class she had always talked about but never pursued, her smile lighter, more authentic. My father started volunteering at a local charity, learning to measure value in service rather than control. Watching them grow was unexpectedly comforting. It didn't erase the years of pain, but it proved that my boundaries and conditions weren't just about me. They were about creating the possibility for change, for growth, for healthier connections. I sat at my desk one evening, the city lights twinkling like distant promises through the window, and touched the silver locket my grandmother had given me. It still rested against my heart, a reminder of the courage that had carried me through betrayal, disappointment, and neglect. She had been right. Money could be stolen, promises could be broken, but resilience, integrity, and self-belief were untouchable. I realized that the woman I had become was stronger, wiser, and calmer than the scared, betrayed girl who had once packed a single bag and left home with nothing. I was not defined by what was taken from me, but by how I reclaimed my life. When I thought back to the moment my parents had walked into my office, expecting weakness, I allowed myself a quiet, private smile. I had turned hurt into opportunity, neglect into ambition, and betrayal into clarity. I had not only survived, I had flourished. And in that flourishing, I had learned the most powerful truth. Forgiveness and love do not mean surrender. They mean understanding, boundaries, and the courage to demand respect. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the soft leather beneath me, and whispered aloud, more to myself than anyone else, I am enough. I am unstoppable. I am free. The silver locket glinted in the soft glow of the desk lamp, a silent witness to every battle, every tear, every triumph. And in that quiet moment, I understood. The life I had built, the peace I had claimed, and the strength I had discovered were mine. completely, irrevocably, and beautifully mine.